After writing and recording a set of songs that would blast him into the stratosphere, this legend's record label rejected the album. Coming up next, legendary guitarist and co-writer of one of the biggest songs on this album, he's also the co-producer. He gives us the inside scoop on how the band overcame this massive obstacle to create a true masterpiece of 1989. The story's coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if the only reason you've ever gone to a Hard Rock Cafe is for the memorabilia and never for the food, you're going to dig this channel. Make sure that you subscribe below right now to be a part of this music community daily. Click the bell so that you never miss out on our latest stories and interviews. We've got a lot of great stuff coming this year. We also have a Patreon that you're going to want to check out. It has even more content, a special new show behind the scenes of our live events. You can find it there. The link is actually below. So it's time for another edition of our series, Revelations. This is where artists give us exclusive behind-the-scenes experiences about their biggest songs and their biggest albums. And it's insight that you really won't find anywhere else. And today we have something very special for you. It is part 2 of an in-depth interview with Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, co-writer, guitarist, producer with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, the great Mike Campbell. Last time we talked about how he first created the classic Don Henley song, The Bullies of Summer. And we also covered some of the songs off his excellent new record with his band, The Dirty Knobs. We're going to do a few more of those new songs today. We also open up the book on the 1989 Tom Petty classic album, Full Moon Fever. It was his first solo album, though all of the Heartbreakers played on the record, except for Stan Lynch. Tom Petty began to work with Electric Light Orchestra frontman, the legendary Jeff Lynne. The album was tentatively called Songs from the Garage, I believe. Jeff Lynne would bring a completely different approach to the band and recording. Lynne would direct the band members and tell them exactly what to play, according to Warren Zane's great book. Their previous collaborative, creative method of arrangement, that was not needed at that point. Now, Jeff Lynne, having years of production under his belt, he knew exactly what he wanted and exactly what he needed for this particular record. He, of course, knew the studio inside and out, and he worked to get that engaging sound that you hear on Full Moon Fever, one of the greatest albums of the 80s. You know, Jeff Lynne's unique style was to record individual multiple layered instrumental parts in order to avoid any sonic bleed through, with one vocal line at the top without much reverb at all added to the mix. He wanted to bring Tom Petty's distinct voice to the front of those songs so that it was wholly recognizable. Part of what connected Jeff Lynne to Tom Petty in the first place was their love of Del Shannon and Roy Orbison.
Only the lonely.
In fact, Jeff Lynne would say in Warren Zane's excellent Tom Petty biography that both Del Shannon and Roy Orbison's voices had a plaintiveness with some sadness in some ways. Like there's a story in there. I love that quote. Jeff Lynne would discover the same thing in Tom Petty.
The face in the crowd.
Not in the technical side of it, more in that dollop of melancholy, a slight tinge of sadness. And anyone who even has a passing interest in Petty's music knows that he's always had a story to tell.
She's a good girl, loves her mama.
One of my favorite stories about that is when hearing Free Fallin' for the first time, George Harrison commented to Jeff Lynne, "Now, Tom's a lucky bugger because he's already got the twang built in. He's got a head start on all of us. It's really hard to be from an industrial city in England and get a sound like that." I love that. So today we're going to dig deep on the number 23 hit, Runnin' Down a Dream. It was the second single released off of Full Moon Fever, and it became the second straight number 1 rock hit from the set. written by Tom and Mike Campbell, who, of course, also co-produced the track. But again, the song on the album it came from, that was rejected by the label when they presented it to him. Tom Petty was crushed. He thought he had something really great. How could the label not like these songs? In fact, a short time after MCA rejected the album, they were at a dinner at Warner Brothers chief Mo Austin's home, and George Harrison started messing around with it on his acoustic guitar. He started playing Free Fallin', and he actually talked Tom Petty into performing it in front of the people who were there at dinner. Petty obliged. People were dumbfounded. How could MCA not love this song, this album? Warner Brothers music president Lenny Waronker offered Tom a Warner Brothers record contract on the spot, right then and there. Now, Petty had to decline since he still owed MCA a couple albums, but Waronker didn't care, and Petty ended up signing a secret contract with the label that would remain under wraps until he had met his obligations with MCA. Another funny thing that happened during the recording is that when it came time to sequence the record, right after Running Down a Dream, which is the last song on side one if you're listening on vinyl or cassette, right after that, Tom Petty recorded a secret message on the CD version of the album. At the time Full Moon Fever was dropped, all the record labels were pushing fans and consumers to buy CDs, compact discs. And Tom Petty was, of course, a vinyl guy. So he added a little voice recording at the midpoint of the album that said, "Hello, CD listeners.
Hello, CD listeners.
We've come to the point in this album where those listening on cassette or records will have to stand up or sit down and turn over the record or tape. In fairness to those listeners, we'll now take a few seconds before we begin side two. Thanks. Here's side two." I love that.
Thank you. Here's side two.
So coming up, like I said, singer, songwriter, and producer and Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Mike Campbell relates the story of how they were able to get MCA to release and promote the album, as well as Mike Campbell's new full-length album, Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs. It's called External Combustion. It's a great album. In fact, our last piece, we had hundreds of comments of people who said they went and listened to it and loved it.
External combustion. What you got?
It's an amazing album. All this is coming up next. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to recognize our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. One of the main features that I can wholeheartedly recommend for your Zenni frames is Blue Blocks. It protects your eyes from digital blue light that we see on our screens. And I tell you, it saved my bacon with less headaches, less migraines since I've had them. Check it out today at Zenni.com. Here's Mike Campbell. Well, Full Moon Fever was made mostly in your garage, as I understand. It's such a great story about that album because the record was rejected by the label. A lot of people are shocked by that. I mean, I could not believe that when I read that in an interview a few years after the record was made. I mean, I remember my dad buying it the day it came out, and I had kind of moved into new wave and stuff like that, and then he played Full Moon Fever, and I was right back into my love for Tom and for you guys and for your music. Running Down a Dream. What an incredible guitar riff. Written and produced with Jeff Lynne, great Jeff Lynne and Tom. Tell me about that. How did that guitar come to you, that riff?
Well, it's a kind of an interesting story. My riff, da 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 da, which was my solo. That was my contribution to the song. All the other chords and stuff and melody, Tom and Jeff came up with. But when I gave a rough demo to Tom. The riff was in half time. It was like a da 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 da. Kind of funky. And somehow, I guess Jeff heard it and said, we should do that fast. And so, it became that, thanks to them. It was just a riff. I had been out to see a band somewhere that night and came home, and I was inspired to play the guitar from hearing them. And I think it was Jane's Addiction. Back in the day, and that riff just came to me. I don't know.
I felt so good.
Where do they come from? If I knew, I'd do them all the time.
Exactly. Second single from the album, and it was such a big hit. That album had 3 #1 rock hits, a hat trick.
Yeah, go figure. And they turned it down.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of the record labels, the gatekeepers are keeping out, I think, a lot of the great music, because there is great music out there.
Yeah, but it'll come through. The kids will find it. People will find it because you can't hide that quality. It's always there. And I think you compare it to what's going on now, and you can tell, anybody can tell, like, that's better.
Well, I remember Tom saying in an interview that when you were playing that amazing riff, that you stood there like a stone statue.
Well, that's, I would take him on his word. I don't remember. I do remember when I did the solo at the end, we left it long. And most of our songs don't have long solos because we're not wired that way. But this song we thought could go on a little bit, and I could play off a little bit. So it was all off the cuff, wasn't rehearsed or anything. And I did it off the top of my head. And I do remember Jeff standing there. Jeff is hard to please. And I remember he was watching me. And when I did one of the more intricate things, he kind of went like this. Anytime Jeff looks over his glasses, you're either in big trouble or it's really good, So he was real proud of that. And
yeah, I stand corrected. It was actually the solo that Tom said that you just played that blazing solo. There's so much going on in it, but you played it like a stone. You were just kind of.
Well, I'm not a dancer.
Yeah.
I was focused. I was doing my work, man. I was doing my job. I had to concentrate.
Yeah.
I had Jeff Lynne and Tom standing there. I had to do something good. I can't be posing,
The lyrics are so great because there's a nod to Tom's Petty's musical roots, referencing Del Shannon's "Runaway" and and of course the documentary was named after that song.
Will you go with me, people?
And that's been used in like every sport known to mankind. I mean, in the NBA finals, I think it was like 2 or 3 years, it was the official song of the NBA finals. They used in the 2000 World Series, NASCAR.
Yeah, go figure. My favorite line in that song is "Running down a dream, it never would come to me." That's so Tom. Like, I'm going to go get
Down a dream that never would come to me.
It's just been used so much in pop culture as well. Larry Crown, that Tom Hanks movie.
You are so cute. I can see you.
Guitar Hero 5, and that's how a lot of these kids are finding this music, is through Guitar Hero. King of the Hill.
Hey, I would like to try that.
I'm going to help you run down that dream, Bobby.
Family Guy.
I'm feeling the runner's high. It was a beautiful day.
That's when a song really resonates, when you just see it all over the place.
It's a good driving song, too, if you're ever in your car. It's hard not to drive fast when that comes on.
Like anything was possible. Hit cruise control.
When Tom and I started out, we dreamed about money, but we didn't ever think we'd make as much success as we did. We never thought we'd have houses and cars and, stuff like that. That was like, all we cared about was the music. I'm going to do this, and maybe someday I'll make some money. Maybe I won't, but I'm going to do this because I love it. And I don't know if people are coming from that place nowadays, but we certainly were. And I think if you do something you love, you're probably going to be successful at it because it's you. And if not, at least you were happy. At least you did what you loved, So that's what we always did. And we were so, we came from a poor background, all of us. And so we just went way beyond our dreams. And like you were saying earlier, we got to meet so many of our heroes that you could have never thought that when you were young. Like, oh, I'll get to hang out with those guys someday. Maybe they might like my music too. Like, it was unthinkable.
So let's get into the new album, External Combustion, Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs. Dirty Job, featuring Ian Hunter from Mott the Hoople. How did that collaboration come together? Wow.
It's a dirty job. Someone's got to do it.
It just came out of the air. You know, I got a phone call. I'd never met Ian, but I love Mott the Hoople and his singing style. They asked me if I would overdub on one of his tracks. I guess he was in England, and they sent me the track, and I put some guitars on it and sent it back to him. And he really liked it. He said, "Would you do one more?" And he sent that over, and I did that. He liked it. And then I cheekily said, "Well, you know, would you maybe sing on one of our songs?" And I sent him that song, and he sang a verse and some harmonies and played piano on it. And I don't know, he kind of made it, really, his character. So I was once again just blessed.
Well, one of my favorite songs from the record is the really mellow and methodical State of Mind. Almost gospel tinge rock. And I love the horns.
Well, that once again was from the old analog tape locker. I had forgotten about that song. And he went through and he showed me that one and a few of the other ones. So that one popped up, and I thought, that's pretty good. You know, we could use something like that on the record. And I just like the simplicity of it. The words are pretty good. And we cut it. And thank God, Margot Price happened to be in town. She sang beautifully on it.
It's a state of grace.
Then George DeCoulius and I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had some strings and horns? You know, we never done that before. So they came in and blew our minds on it. You know, I wanted it to sound like the band. I'm right behind you. Da 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 da. And it came out really good. I'm really proud of that one. Words are very, I think, universal.
You both sound fantastic on that song.
Thank you.
I love it when Turn This Train Around So I Can Go Back Home.
Turn this train around right now.
It's just really magical song.
That's interesting. You would notice that because I had that line in the song, but I also had another line, turn this train around before it goes too far. And George and my wife both said, you know, I think you should go back and sing So I Can Go Back Home. That's a better punchline. And they were right. You know?
Go back home.
Musically, I am most grateful for, I call it a gift. But these things that have come to me and ideas that come to me out of the air, it's like, you know, I just feel like, how did I get here? I'm so lucky that this is being given to me. It is a gift. I treat it like a gift, and I respect it like a gift. And I try to do the best work I can. So, I mean, without music, I don't know what I'd be. I'd be a shell.
Down a dream that never would come to me.
Make sure to get Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs' new album, External Combustion, right below. And leave us a comment about this rock classic, Running Down a Dream. Also the same name of the Bogdanovich classic Tom Petty documentary. What are your memories of this song and the album Full Moon Fever? Let us know below. And make sure, again, to let us know what you think of the new album. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe below so that you never miss out on our daily content. We're putting out videos all the time. We'd love to have you as part of our community here. Check us out on Patreon as well, other programming there. Help us keep the music alive. That is the whole idea here. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.